Hi folks, Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about what are referred to in social power ideological terms as the power dynamic. Now, there's a lot of sort of time and effort being put into justifying the sort of social re-engineering that the globalists are trying to force on us across the Western world, and the universities and sociology departments and the proverbial black lesbians or white lesbians, and at the apex the Jewish lesbians really are playing a major role in this. Now, I first came across this this idea of a social power totem pole, or degrees of oppression and so on. So I'll just go through the headings quickly, and then we can come back and look at them. So I should point out that these people that do this cast the setting in a white country. So they say black people are powerless because they've put the setting in a white country. They could say that white people are powerless in a black country, or that black people are powerless in Asia or China, or they could say that, but they only have the setting in a white country. So that makes it far easier to say that non-white people are disadvantaged in the power dynamic because they've only chosen a white country to do to be the backdrop or the setting. So it's already very disingenuous from the outset here. But let's go through it anyway. So to have power in a white country means that, anyway. So to have power in a white country means that, it's a relative power thing. So straight white male, someone who's in good health, someone who has above average intelligence, someone who is hardworking and industrious, someone who has good mental health, or majority mental health as they sometimes refer to it, someone who has above average income, someone who is a citizen of the white country. Now they say this means if you have all those things, and they've got a slight gradation in the sense that if you have all those things and you have a lot of social power, then if you're rich and own, say, lots of property or something like that, or have a business, or then you're you have even more social power. But the basis of social power is these things. If you're straight white male in good health, above average intelligence, and hardworking, then that's it. You have social power. Now they effectively equate here social power is being the exact equal of oppression. If you have power, this social power that they say is social power, then you must be using that power to oppress those who do not have it. You must be. This is not a debating point, or maybe, or it could be. You must be, and you are. Now, if you are using your social power to oppress others who have less social power, then you're a fascist. And then if you're a fascist, then you must be a Nazi. And if you're a Nazi, you must be Hitler. So that's the way they sort of grade the whole process. Now, to be powerless, as in to have little or no social power, you must be black, female, in poor health. You must be a low IQ or mentally retarded. You must be lazy, gay, lesbian, or bi, or somewhere on the LG, the trans and everything. You must be overweight. You must be an illegal immigrant, mentally unstable, and have a low income. Now, this is interesting sort of that if you can't afford to buy a house or pay rent in a sort of a middle class suburb, then you lack social power, is their sort of thing. So they do interesting twists and turns in and out of having money. So they can say you're lazy and stupid, but then if you don't have a high income, they claim that as another power category. Now, my understanding, people who are lazy and stupid, unless they've inherited something, whatever, they tend not to have much of an income. So, but anyway, that's the thing. Now, I first came across this sort of concept of the power dynamic in the feminist, the radical feminist gender-based politics that really came out of the Marx. And if you look at the 1960s feminist movement, particularly in the United States, it was pretty much all of those, they were nearly all Jewish lesbians, not all, but nearly all. There was a couple of black lesbians in there as well, but they were nearly all Jewish lesbians. And, a number of them had been sort of Marxist trained, like, Betty Friedan had been the editor of the American, Soviet-funded, Marxist communist-funded newspaper in the 1950s and into the 1960s. So, and if you look at other sort of activists, Shulamith Firestone, I think that she was again I'm not. She's always a lesbian. I think she was more bisexual, Shulamith Firestone. But she, she again, very, very Marxist. The books that she brought out, somehow these people were all able to get publishing deals for books that nobody read at the time. But and other ones, there's a whole range of. Ellen Levine and the list, Miller, Kate Miller, the list just goes on of the feminist lesbians, nearly all Jewish, that were pushing this, and they were very much on this idea of social power hierarchies, and they used it in more gender terms then than anything, but they did sort of have a mention that black lesbians, say, were particularly lacking in social power. So the idea of social power is something that people can do nothing about. Therefore, the people with social power, they've stolen it and taken it from others. But the people who don't have it can do nothing about it. They have no agency, and therefore they can do nothing. So only government intervention on a massive scale can equalise outcomes. So you can see the ideology of equal outcomes, or equity as it's called now. You can see that ideology was already there, lurking around, but particularly in a feminist sort of context. Now, the things that the feminists went chasing after then were, where they particularly thought equity should exist, is equal pay for equal work, which I've got no problem with. But at the time when they brought the equal pay provisions in, say, for example, working in a warehouse, and I remember this because as a kid in high school, over the summer break, I got a job as a flunky in a warehouse over those summer holidays before I went back to school, and they brought that equal pay thing even out then in Australia, but there was still a difference. The difference in work, there was still, if a woman worked a certain amount of hours, you could not even ask her to work overtime, whereas you could if it was a man. And if, say, there was a certain amount of weight had to be lifted, men, and that was any male person over the age of 15 or over, by the way, had to be able to lift. I think it was, for example, 20 pounds of weight, so about 10 kilograms. I think it was more than that, but it's somewhere in that order. But women only had to lift 6 kilograms or 12 pounds, for example. And the woman who said she was pregnant but hadn't, was in the early stages of pregnancy, only had to lift half that weight again. So there were a lot of differences in the work that men and women had to do back in the day, but the pay had to be equal. Now, there's still differences in absolute outcomes because men could be ordered to work overtime, because you couldn't order a woman. The woman had to volunteer and agree, whereas the man, you could say, "Hey, buddy, you're working overtime today." That sort of thing. So there was again differences in treatment there, even though the pay. So it wasn't really equal work. It was the equal pay, but it wasn't equal work. Far from it. There were differences, I say, in the tasks to be performed, such as carrying weights and other things too. So anyway, there was the equal pay thing, but more importantly, the feminists attacked the family. They're saying that, well, the power dynamic in the family is unequal, and therefore the only way to address this is to destroy the family, and to make sure that there are artificial outcomes through the divorce courts, say, where him being the oppressor gets much less of the total value of his estate than the oppressed person does. So it's compensation for lack of social power. Now we see this across the legal system, generally today, but at the time it was pretty much confined to the divorce courts. But it's an ideology that's crept into all courts, that compensating someone for their lack of social power is now sort of how you should view the world. And there's armies of activists all across courts and public prosecutor's office and so on that believe that. This is the genesis, of course, of compensating black people for alleged slavery, even though only 3% of the population owns slaves, some of those even being black for that matter. How do you determine, who should get paid or not? It's a crazy scenario. It's a can of worms. I don't know who can untangle that. And rather than untangle it and make it, just and this, well, why don't we just give every black person a free waterfront home? That'll fix it. And these sorts of attitudes. But coming back to the social power thing, this sort of now affects everything that we do. All government policy, public services that used to be at one time impartial and independent, are now coloured top to bottom and left to right with ideological attitudes by people who are encouraged to think that way. Affirmative action itself is that. It's the idea of giving low IQ people that can't make it on merit and giving them affirmative action positions at senior high school, university, employment, and all sorts of things. And this is sort of how it's viewed now. There are human resource departments and diversity, equity, inclusion departments that believe their job is to prevent straight white males from getting employment, or putting them in their place and letting them know that we know you're a Nazi fucking rapist, that sort of thing. And it's transcended any form of reality that's ever been known in human history. So, but look at the power dynamic. To be straight, for example, that's now, because remember, they're equating, if you have social power, you're effectively a Nazi, a Nazi oppressor. So just to be straight, white, and male means you're a Nazi. That's how insane it is, that you have good health and take care of your health. Now, for someone that's very mindful of health, and I do a lot of exercise, I'm very careful what I eat, and even though I, walk past the cake shop with lots of chocolate Black Forest cake, I'm very strong and resist temptation. And drink very little. Don't smoke and all that sort of stuff. So I'm someone but I have to put a lot of time, effort. It's a lot of discipline to exercise every day. It really is. Sometimes it's too cold, or it's too hot, or it's too wet, or this or that. And so, you really got to go, no, I've got to do it. I must do it, because if I get out of the discipline, that sort of thing. So to be careful what you eat and to look at your nutrition, to do the exercise, that actually takes a lot of work and a lot of discipline. Not many people can do it. Not everyone can do it. People do. And if you're down the beach on a hot day and you look up and down the beach, there's clearly not many people doing it. But even when people are young and it's easy to be slim and fit, even them in that category, there's not many of them that are looking out for their health and watching their diet. So. Above average intelligence, well, how that can be viewed as some sort of plank or fundamental sort of type of oppression is that some people maybe inherit better mental genetics than others. I don't know, but that's something that's random. I don't think that it's something you could categorize as a power dynamic. And this idea that someone who's above average intelligence automatically uses that intelligence to oppress others is beyond absurd. I mean, you'd have to be an ideological fanatic and someone who's very sad in your own life to even come close to that sort of position. Hardworking, just because you if you work hard, you're an oppressor. What a fucking load of nonsense. But there you go. And again, it comes back to the Marxist roots. Each to their needs, each to their capability. So the Marxist thing is, if you're capable of working hard, because you've got better health or something like that, if you're capable of working hard, or you're more motivated to, or you take pride in doing good work, or something like that, if you do work hard and produce more, then it's incumbent on you to share a higher proportion of what you have. So if you can produce 10 widgets a day, and everyone else produces less than that, or many others produce less, then you are obligated, under sort of Marxist ideological concepts, you're obligated to share that with the person that produces 2 widgets a day. So 10 plus 2 equals 12. Your 10 widgets, they're 2 widgets, then you get 6 each. And that is equity. But if you decide to hang on to those 10 units that you produce, then you're an oppressor. So you had to be brought to book for that, you evil fucking Nazi. So here again, you see something very ideological and very unique in the way that it chooses what it presents and what it latches onto. Good mental health or majority mental health. Well, people that have good mental health, they're not running around drooling or talking to all these imaginary people or something. Maybe they're going to do better than people that don't, but I don't know. Why would the relativity of good mental health to bad mental health? How can that be oppression? I mean, even on the basis of social power, so another one is if you speak English, and in English, and again, you can see this is American centric. If you speak English competently, that's an act of oppression. But again, they're assuming people coming from other countries who don't speak English, haven't bothered to learn it, have arrived illegally, these sorts of things, and that they are without social power. Therefore, you have to take things from people with social power, forcibly take things to give it to people that have arrived illegally who can't be bothered to learn English or do any work, who have bad mental health. I mean, that's insanity, surely. People who have an above average income, again, you're an oppressor if you do that. And now you may have worked very hard at university, you may work very hard at your job, you may put up with all sorts of crap from the boss or something, like there can be a whole range of things why you have an above average income. But again, to portray that as some sort of manifestation of social power, which automatically leads to oppression, is just, again, utter insanity. And if you're the citizen of a Western country now, that's a rando thing. That isn't, you're a citizen of a Western country. That doesn't make you an oppressor. But they're arguing that it does, because the Western countries have most of the world's wealth, and then coming back again to their power dynamic, this automatically makes them oppressors in the ideological terms. Because if you have and someone else have not, that makes you the oppressor and them the victim, and that's the ideological position. You must be one, or you're either a victim or an oppressor. There's nothing else you can be. So this is, as you can see, utterly absurd and quite ridiculous. But this is the totem pole that they run off. So when they work with and what they apply, so whether they apply it to employment or legal cases or government services or anything, this is the prism through which they make these decisions. There's now gazillions of these activists all over the universities and the public service, the government, the legal profession, and so on. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.